Thank you very much, Patrick, for those very kind words, and to all at the University of Law who have had a bearing on my award today. I feel very honoured to have been chosen and humbled to be endorsed as an honorary doctor. It was certainly not something I expected. In fact, on opening the email giving me the opportunity, I told my daughter, who was with me at the time, that I thought it was a scam and I'd be asked for hundreds of pounds. I've been asked to give a short reflection, and thinking about how to capture a lengthy career, I decided that I might give a flavour of how to make the best of opportunities, if you're lucky enough to have them, and I certainly have been, and also to stay true to yourself, as I'm addressing an audience who mostly have decades ahead of them rather than behind. You will all have been working incredibly hard, but it's best to find a purpose and to seize the opportunities to support it. Both my parents were born over 100 years ago into a very different world, but throughout their lifetimes they never stopped embracing change and teaching my brother and I to welcome new people, new ideas, new borders, to be constantly curious, to value all education, and to travel as far and wide and as often as we could. We were never poor, but we were often hard up. We lived in an area of London full of migrants from many post-war upheavals. But any spare money went on education of all sorts, from visits to the communist bloc, as it was then, to listening to Kwame Ture at a Camden Town venue, to attending church, synagogue, mosque and temple to try to understand about faith. And I thank them for setting my path. At 17, I went to live in Massachusetts on a cultural exchange program with a first-generation Italian family where much of the conversation around me was in a Neapolitan dialect, which we don't hear today. An era without mobile phones meant I was restricted to 2 telephone calls home in 12 months, and all other communication was by snail mail. I attended American high school with migrant families from Europe and South America, and a few surviving Indigenous Americans whose families had somehow stayed in the northeastern US. I thank Tom, now 91, the father of that family, who thought that welcoming me to their home would broaden the perspective his children would have on the world, and thus provided me an opportunity to do the same. Guiding you to find out the person that you are is the greatest benefit that your various educators can bestow on you. I was shown the importance of embracing all peoples and given an understanding that standing up to be counted is very important. With school peers, I grew a young person's interest in activism, to argue for rights and against wrongs, marching in demonstration of our views. As a lawyer, you always have that opportunity to contribute to making that stand through your legal work. Patrick's anecdote about Lady Hale is absolutely correct. I assisted her at a now obsolete quango called the Council on Tribunals, and she did suggest that I become a lawyer. How lucky was that? Also needing to pay a mortgage, I sought funding, and before student loans, I applied to the Greater London Council, where the leader at that time, Ken Livingstone, before he became an MP and later Mayor of London, conducted the interviews himself, and I became one of 6 mature students awarded funding for 2 years' worth of study. And it was the last year of those awards before the council was got rid of. At this university's precursor, the College of Law, all 6 of us mature students qualified and went into areas of work representing social justice, from negligence to abuse to immigration and children's rights. So many thanks are due to both Lady Hale and Ken Livingstone, and also those 5 lawyer friends with whom we expanded ideas together. Not long after qualification, I joined Lee Day, then a firm of 11 people, now nearly 1,000. But even then, it was bent on working in areas in which others might not succeed. The founding partner, Sarah Lee, had made her name in immigration. She eschewed correspondence as the usual method of finding facts about people's families and regularly travelled to India to research relatives of those seeking citizenship in the UK. She was soon joined by Martin Day, whose first case in the field of environmental litigation against British nuclear fields at Sellafields may not have been successful, but it sealed the firm's interests in fighting for the man in the street as opposed to the government or for corporations. Sarah encouraged all nascent legal skills in me and encouraged the setting up of our Human Rights Department, which I undertook with enthusiastic colleagues who had the bit between the teeth in how to use public and private law and to push boundaries in the legal field. And we recruited others who wanted to do the same. So thank you to Sarah and Martin for those opportunities along the way. My 11 years as the firm's managing partner was often a very testing time, herding lions on occasion. But our partnership can, in many ways, be inspiring, and I hope gives room to those lawyers who want to press ahead in their own field and to do so in the way that they wish. I was also given that room to develop the growing partnership, recognising the challenges of growth and to try to help the firm develop internally to reflect its legal external reputation. And I give thanks to all the partners who supported those growing pains and adopted and adapted to many, many new ways without too much complaint. As I had retrained, especially to become a lawyer, I didn't want to leave or retire as a manager. And in stepping down from that role after so many years, working one's way back into client work is not exactly straightforward. But I can give thanks to one of our newer colleagues, Jackie Mackenzie, for taking me in and giving me the opportunity to learn entirely new skills in immigration and asylum, just in time to encourage Windrush applications for compensation around the Home Office scandal and to plot around challenges to the new Rwanda Act. I'm lucky to be still on my path. Patrick has mentioned the Black Solicitor Apprenticeship Scheme, which was an attempt to address the imbalance of ethnicities in our trainee intake, and hence our in-house qualification, which, whatever methodology we had employed over many years to counter the outcome of a lack of diversity, did not succeed. So we looked at our failures through a different lens and had colleagues who could reach out into the community, assisting with advertising, recruitment, and then the weekly education online for the first 18 months during COVID of cohorts of students to mirror the university year. So thank you to Jean and Dave for helping Lee Day take that underway. Now, it is my greatest pleasure that we recruited 12 apprentices working their way through 6 or 7 hard years' work in the office and at university at the same time. A real commitment and undertaking for them. I want to end my look back down the telescope by thanking them all for living up to the promise of a new scheme, a new way of doing things, and doing the firm proud, both in the office and at the University of Law. And finally, of course, I want to thank my family for just being there all the time. Thank you.